everyone, I'm Jenny Dorsey. I'm a professional chef, writer, and the founder of a nonprofit community think tank called Studio ATAO. And today I'm going to make one of my very favorite grilling recipes, salt and vinegar chicken wings. First, we're gonna get started with our chicken wings. So we have a mix of drumsticks as well as little flats, and we're just going to liberally salt them and let them come up to room temperature. So I just have some nice kosher salt. I use Morton's coarse, and recently I had a fight with the entire internet about it because everybody uses diamond crystal, but Morton's all the way. I ride or die for Morton's. Interestingly enough, salt of different brands are different levels of saltiness. So Morton's is definitely much saltier than Diamond Crystal. Remember that when you're grilling or honestly doing any sort of cooking, it's good to have your proteins come up to room temperature so you don't have such a contrast of cold protein to hot grill, because then the cold protein will condensate a lot and it ends up sticking, it ends up not forming that nice sear that you're looking for. So chicken's hanging out, and we are gonna get started on all the things that once the chicken comes off the grill, we're gonna immediately toss it into and get that nice hot coating. So the real star of this recipe is white vinegar powder. So what is really great about white vinegar powder is that it gives you all the flavor and tang of white vinegar, but because it's in powdered form, it's dehydrated, it also helps coat the chicken wings without making them too liquidy. So with that, I'm just gonna start grating our garlic into this very large bowl ahead of me. Salt and vinegar is by far the best flavor. I mean, scientifically speaking, salt and sour are like nice contrasting flavors. They'll help balance each other out on your palate. So in a way, because they are contrasting, you can kind of keep upping your salt and vinegar ratios without overwhelming your palate. So I really like that. But also, I mean, salt and vinegar is just like very nostalgic for me. It's always been my very favorite potato chip. Okay, so I have a fair amount of garlic here, and then we're going to mince some scallions. And we're going to mince both our whites and our greens. We are good with our garlic and scallions, so our chicken is gonna come off hot on the grill, go in here, and then we're gonna toss with salt, fish sauce, sugar, and a lot of our white vinegar powder. So now I am going to get started on our dipping sauce. So what we're gonna do is we're going to soak some raw cashews in hot water and then blend it with some cilantro, some dill, and a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and to make it spicy, a little bit of chili crisp. I made this dairy-free because I'm lactose intolerant, but you could also use like a sour cream or a yogurt if you want kind of like that creaminess and you don't like cashews. So I'm going to pour boiling water over these raw cashews and let them sit for like 5 to 10 minutes, however much time you have. So you just want to make sure your water covers your cashews. So we'll just let that sit, and then they'll soften up and be very pliable so that we can do a nice blend in the Vitamix and make a nice creamy sauce. So now that our cashews have soaked for a little bit, I'm going to strain them, and I'm going to go straight into the Vitamix with them. I am going to just do a little rip of my herbs. So since we can use the cilantro leaves for something else, what I like to do for things where you're not going to actually see like the visible greens is to use the stems. So I'm just gonna do a nice twist on our cilantro stems and put them in there. And same with our dill. And then you can save the tops for something else later. And most serendipitously, remember our little garlic butts from earlier? We can also toss that in here. And we'll also add a little bit of apple cider vinegar. This is a little bit of a milder vinegar. And then finally, to make this a little spicy, I'm adding some chili crisp. You can also just do straight chili oil with spices, like chili flakes. I'm using this chili oil since it has such a nice roasted flavor. So I'm gonna start blending this, and if you need a little bit more liquid to make it turn, you can add a little bit of water, you can add a little bit of chicken stock. So I'm gonna add just a touch of water because I think it's gonna need it. That's good. So you can do salt or you can do fish sauce here if you want to kind of complement your wings, up to you. So I'll do a little fish sauce as well as a little salt. All right, great. So we'll let this just hang out over here. It's got a nice green color as we wait for our chicken wings to grill. All right, now we are ready to grill our chicken wings. So they are suitably room temperature. So we are at about 400 degrees. So I'm gonna open this up carefully. Well, we got a little flame, that's fine. Just make sure to try and space these out. Probably remember that we just salted these. So we're really just looking for some nice grill marks for everything to be cooked through. I've got my temperature probe next to me. All right, I'm gonna close this up. Move this out of the way. We got a little more hotness at the center, so I'm just gonna redistribute our wings a little bit here. All of our chicken is now in our bowl of garlic and scallion. So we are gonna do a nice toss of this. The idea is we're using the hotness from the chicken to cook the garlic just a tiny bit so that it doesn't have such a pungent raw garlic flavor. So now that we have all of our chicken, we are going to go back upstairs and toss it with nice salt, fish sauce, sugar, and our white vinegar powder. I'll do a little fish sauce. I feel like this kind of moistens our chicken wings a little bit so that when we do add our white vinegar powder, it really gets like that nice sticky coating for our wings. All right, so dun dun dun. This looks like an egregious amount of white vinegar powder, but I promise it's not as strong as you think it might be. When you're like using like liquid white vinegar, you're like, oh, it's like a lot. White vinegar powder I think is a little bit more mild, so honestly, you'll probably need more of it than you think. So I'm gonna do another little snow covering. And you can kind of see like that sauce sort of forming. It's like that very like craveable sticky sauce. Like I feel like when you're eating wings, you kind of want something happening on your fingers. Like you don't want like clean wings, you know what I mean? You want like messy wings. That's like part of the wing eating experience. Yeah, so wings are basically my food for every occasion, and I don't even watch sports, but I love eating wings. So I'll like show up at sports gatherings and like I'm just in the kitchen eating the wings by myself. I could go on, wings are the best. The end. Salt and vinegar is the best. Salt and vinegar wings, even better. So I'm gonna plate some of these wings on our cute little plate here. Voila! Okay, so for our final taste test, dun, 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 I'm going to select this drumstick because drumsticks are the best. Okay, I'm gonna bite. I'm gonna do one bite without sauce and then I'll go back into the sauce. So good. It's so good. It's salty, it's savory. You don't taste the sweetness, but it's like they're kind of enhancing everything. You don't really taste the fish sauce either, but it's also there like giving the chicken a little boost. Get a little char and smoke, kind of taste the mesquite from our grill downstairs. So with that, I'm going to also do a little dip here. What's nice about the sauce is that you get a whole different expression of wing. You get a little bit more of a cheesy flavor. You get all those herbs and it kind of like smoothes out the wing. So if you're not as into vinegar as I am, this still gives you a nice balanced vinegar flavor, but it also gives you kind of more of like a smooth, creamy texture on your tongue, a more unctuous feel on your tongue to balance out kind of that sharpness of the vinegar. Thank you so much for joining me on my wing eating making adventure today. If you want the recipe, you can click below. So thank you again for joining me and I hope to see you next time.